to be here with you once again. Yeah. Let me just say that you're no stranger to me, and I'm no stranger to you. As a matter of fact, I enjoy the opportunity to meet with everybody to talk about not only housing, not only real estate, but our economy in general. And we should all be focused on that now and concerned about what is happening, because what is happening in Washington, D.C. has a lot to do with what is happening to you. And so I want us to take just a moment before I talk about, some of the housing issues, to understand that we're at a time when this country is in chaos. We're at a time when we have the White House with a new president who is operating in some very strange ways. They're not only strange, they're dangerous. These are dangerous times. Right here in LA County, we have the National Guard and we have the Marines. And people are asking questions. What are we supposed to do? Why are they here? And of course, a lot of this has to do with the fact that the President of the United States has made immigration reform his top political message and his agenda. He has used it throughout his campaign, and he's used it in a way that he's saying to the people of this country that he's going to make sure that he gets rid of all of these people of color who are coming from basically Central America, from Mexico, from Venezuela, from all of these places. In one speech, he said they're dangerous, they're criminals, they're rapists, and he used the kind of adjectives that no one had absolutely heard before in describing those who are trying to come to this country, some of whom are going through the legal processes that are guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States for you, in essence, to make application, to put your story into the record, to tell why you want to become a citizen of the United States. If you qualify, then you can be given consideration. If you don't qualify, you won't be given consideration. And of course, we have people who are undocumented. And undocumented people are people oftentimes looking for a way out from where they come from, because their lives are in danger. They're not able to get jobs. They are literally starving. And so, yeah, they want to come to America, and they want to come in a way that they possibly can. And so the question becomes, will we follow the Constitution, or will we do it the way that the president is doing, where he's even saying, not only am I going to deport you, I'm going to undo the Constitution, which he can't do, to deport you and take away what is known as birthright. Now, if you were born in the United States, you have citizenship. You're born with citizenship right. If you're not, that is, you're undocumented. And so there are a lot of undocumented in our country. Now, recognizing that, the question is, are you going to provoke black people, brown people in our communities where we are? When they came in with the National Guard, they went to Compton, they went to Inglewood, they went to South LA, where black and brown people are. This is ICE, and ICE has a responsibility for apprehending undocumented and for seeing to it that they're deported. But how do you do this? Are you on the streets picking up anybody who you think looks like an undocumented? Are you in front of Target and all of the big box stores trying to determine who is and who isn't? Why do you have on masks? Why are you not identified whom you are if you're operating legitimately? And so the questions arise. The questions from many black people. Ms. Waters, well, they're undocumented, and the government has a right to take them out. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. It's how you do it. And so, it is absolutely unfair to have guns pointed by the National Guard or the Marines or any of our armed forces because, number one, the National Guard must be agreed upon by the governor of the state. Governor Newsom never even heard from them before they came in here. And of course, for the other armed services, the Constitution protects us from using the armed forces against the citizens of this country. So all this is a mess. It is a mess. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we've got to be very smart about how we deal with this. First of all, there are a lot of protests going on. The Constitution guarantees the right to freedom of speech and the right to protest, but you must do it peacefully. You cannot be violent in what you do, but the president is using his power to provoke violence. When I first went to one of the detention centers where members of Congress are allowed to go to check on how the deportation is working, and we need not notice we have the right as elected officials who create the laws to go to the detention center. Of course, if you were watching television, they slammed the door in my face downtown, and they wouldn't let me in. In New Jersey, they arrested elected officials, arrested the mayor in New Jersey, and basically, McIver, one of the members of Congress, a black congressional woman, has been indicted and had to go out and hire expensive lawyers to try and do whatever she can to remain a congresswoman and to be able to do what she was elected to do, or whether or not she's going to fight and lose. Now, she really does have to be worried because the president has so much power. He's threatened the courts, and he's basically said he doesn't care what the courts say. They may not comply with them in many cases. We have a lot of lawsuits going on, and the president is unhappy about some of the temporary decisions that are being made, not simply about deportation, but about a lot of things. We have a lawsuit against HUD. We have one against the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. We have one about the Board of Education. We have lawsuits because the president has decided on this $5 trillion budget that he is going to make tax breaks for the richest billionaires in this country. And the way you do it is you fire federal employees, you lay them off, you cut down on the services, you do everything that you can to reduce the cost of all of these programs that people are getting, and to say people are getting that this president does not like. This president does not like HUD. And he's appointed someone to be in charge of HUD who told me to my face that they were going to be doing away with Section 8 and the community projects that I'm able to fund. This is a minister, his name is Turner, the only black that he has appointed. So they are serious about taking over this country, making sure they get rid of diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. And as you know, I created that in the Financial Services Committee, where I'm the ranking member, and I was the chair before he got elected. But they're getting rid of and sent notices out to all the programs and the nonprofits that if you have anything that looks like DEI, we're going to cut you out, we're going to cut you off, et cetera, et cetera. This is very serious. Our democracy is at stake. Our democracy is at stake in ways that we never envisioned it before. I'm not afraid of controversy. There are right-wing conservatives that I will never agree with. But I've never seen anything like we are seeing at this time. And so there was some provocations going downtown, I think it was last week, where some young people got out of hand and they created some violence downtown, and there was some looting, etc. But that's not everybody. That is not all of our communities. We don't want to be deemed to be criminals or deemed to be violent and have guns pointed at us, because when guns are pointed at you, somebody is going to get killed. Somebody is going to get killed. And it won't only be people you think, oh, they after somebody else. We're always a target. Whether it is meant to be or whether it's by mistake, we're always a target. So here you are, business people. All you want to do is do business. You want to do what the democracy says is possible and have the opportunity for people to have a decent living, for people to have housing, for people to have a quality of life that the democracy says we all deserve. That gets more difficult as you watch what is going on with this president who doesn't give a darn about the democracy or the Constitution. How is what he's doing impact you in so many ways? Not only with HUD, because as you know, the rents are going up, the cost of mortgages are going up, all of that. And that has a direct impact on what you do and what you've decided to do as your career as a business person in a country where you thought you had a right to do what you need to do to be in business, to have this career, to sell houses, to open up opportunities for families, to tell them how to work to get that down payment, which is increasingly hard to do at 20%. And our young people having a difficult time coming up with the 20%. Many of them can take care of the mortgage, but getting that 20% down. And this is one of the things that those of us who care about this issue work on, along with the other opportunities. And so here you are, trying to do business. And not only do you have a president who does not like HUD, and is cutting the employees already, about 7,000 of those employees have been fired or laid off. But you're wondering, what is he doing on tariffs? Making enemies even with our allies in other countries. Because saying, before you can get your goods and services in here, I'm going to raise the amount that you have to pay, known as tariffs. And he's talked about anything from 25%, 10%, and some 10% with China, 25% for some countries, all the way up with 45% for other countries. And he changes his mind every day. It goes up and down. But I want to tell you, when tariffs are raised, and if they have to pay, guess who pays? Everybody. We taxpayers. We all pay. Because you know what? When the goods and services cost more money, and they have to sell them to people in America, you think they're going to take the hit? No. They're going to increase the price so that we have to pay. Tariffs are very dangerous for him to play politics with, for him to prove how powerful he is. And so we have a problem with the president, not only with HUD, but with tariffs, with getting rid of DEI, and he is so cruel, in my estimation, deplorable. He has taken down the picture of Dr. Martin Luther King. He doesn't want it around in the White House. And so he's coming after people of color, not only Latinos, Mexicans, Venezuelans. On the one hand, he frames it in terms of deporting because all of them are undocumented. But he comes after us because he says, you're doing too good. What is this DEI, diversity and inclusion? Well, it's just what it says. Corporations, corporate America, governments, everywhere, you gotta be fair. When people apply for jobs, when they want to have an opportunity with contracts, Don't throw the application in the wastebasket. Don't respond to them. They should have an opportunity to do whatever you are requesting, whatever you're requiring. If people believe they can fit those requirements, they should have an opportunity. In my committee, the Financial Services Committee, when I was chair of the committee, we started to get all the information from the corporations in America to see exactly how they were organized. And what we discovered was people who had worked on jobs for 20, 25, 30 years are still working on the same job, not making as much money as people who have been hired after them doing less jobs are making. Never getting to the management position, never getting to serve on the boards. That's what we're dealing with when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so all of these issues now are at stake because this is a president who is all about himself. If I had time, I would tell you about cryptocurrency. I'd tell you about stablecoin. I'll tell you what he's doing in creating his own companies for him, his wife, Melania, for his son, and all of his family that are getting richer and richer every day because he's taking the ownership of cryptocurrency. He's using the president to lure billionaires to invest in his stablecoin, and they're doing it. He's going outside of the country. Abu Dhabi just invested, I think it was $2 billion in his stablecoin. The president has increased his wealth from about $2 billion up to about $5.9 billion right now, just since he's been in office on cryptocurrency. And so, he's getting in. He doesn't care if we don't get ours. As a matter of fact, I call it putting his foot on our necks, is what he's trying to do. Deny the opportunity. Does not believe that America belongs to all of us. That cap that he wears, the MAGA cap, is all about white people should run the country. Black people better understand that. Not only should we be in charge, we're smarter than you are. We're better than we are. And we're going to go back even to the days where we were absolutely in charge. And now here you all come along, getting educated, talking about careers, understanding what contracts are all about. We never intended that for you, and we're going to make sure that you don't have the kind of access that allows you to easily be able to realize your own dream. So I have to tell you that because I want you to understand. When you see me on the street, I go to protests. On one day I was at downtown, Hawthorne, in front of Elon Musk's place, who I call the co-president. The co-president gave this president millions of dollars in his campaign, so he got ownership with Trump. Now they claim they're fighting. They might just be putting up something fake for us to believe that they're not really together anymore. But they are all about the billionaire class. And so this bill that I'm describing to you that we got to vote on, the Senate just put it out. The billionaires will get their tax cuts. We will lose the jobs. We will lose the opportunities. And so what are we to do? We're to do what the civil rights movement taught us to do. You can't win this war on the internet. You can't win this war in a place where young people have decided they want to talk to each other about what they had for lunch or breakfast, what party they went to. That's cool, but we got to teach them that in addition to reading what's on the internet and understanding what progressive legislators are saying, we've got to hit the street. When I went to Hawthorne on the first protest, nobody in color was out there. All of the people from Hawthorne, not of color, Torrance, and the South Bay was out there. Why was they out there? Because they heard and they know He's going to cut the hell out of Medicaid. And everybody, millions of people are on Medicaid because the cost of medicine is so high. You cannot afford it. And it is not just people of color. Mostly white people are on Medicaid, and they're protesting. When I went to Tariffs, which is in my district, the furthest end of my district in South Bay, 10,000 white people were out protesting. People of color were not out there. When I go downtown, of course, the Latinos, the Latin people are out there. Some black people are out there, but not enough. In the civil rights movement, you know what got us the voting rights? Walking across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, where John Lewis got his head beat in, almost killed, where Martin Luther King went to jail, where they organized and organized until the government had to bend. It had to bend. And we got voting rights. And sometimes we forget that we've got voting rights and we don't use them. But I want you to know, we've got to now work toward taking our government back. We've got to work at it. And we've got to say, you can't have it. We belong here. We work here. We've invested in it. Our ancestors have died and sacrificed in it. You can't have it. And we're going to fight for it. We're going to protest. We're going to get out there. When you hear something, whether it is indivisible or others who are organizing, join us. You won't get a special invitation. You say, oh, they out there. I'm going to join them. I'm going out. I heard about it on KTLH. I heard about it. And so just come on out on the street. The bigger we get, the more the government has to back down. First of all, they can't put us all in jail. That's number one. Number two, they know that in the final analysis, the bigger the numbers are, that we're going to be able to force change. Even with some people who thought that they would never support change. They know, and I want to tell you, when we fight, we're not just fighting for the urban communities, we're fighting for the rural communities who don't have health care and all of that. And so, I want you to join us in the way that the civil rights movement has taught us and inspired us and helped the young people to understand that. Meanwhile, keep doing what you're doing. Keep staying in business, no matter what it takes. Keep trying to help those get mortgages who desperately want to buy a home. Now, inventory is low. I know that. And you don't have all of the opportunities. The median range, I think, for housing is around $1 million by now. And so, this is difficult, this is hard. But there's still people who are saving, people who have wanted to have a home all of their lives, and they need somebody to help them get the best mortgage that they can possibly get, and help work them through it, and tell them how it all works, and what the costs are, and why the cost. That's you. This is what you do, and this is what we need you to do. Don't stop. Keep doing it. Keep talking to young people. And when we take back the house, and I am determined that we're going to take it back, we have some bills that we're proposing that will help young people with that 20% down payment. We have some bills that will help us create more affordable housing. We have some bills to do what we know should be done in this country. And so, we're celebrating Juneteenth, and I see that the title and the caption is all about Black Wall Street. Black Wall Street was real. It was owned by black people. And I want you to know that if we can ever get it done, the banks and the insurance companies all owe us. You had people who were paid in and deposits and whatever, and when they burned them down, it was never replaced. We talk about reparations, but if you want to talk about real reparations, those people, the descendants of those people, should have been taken care of. I think the last one or two may be living now. I worked for several years on trying to get what you would call reparations for those people. Some of them were already in their 80s and 90s. came to Washington, D.C. in the cold of winter, where we had the last big president before the Supreme Court, where we did not win. But when you talk about Black Wall Street, all of us need to want to be a part of Black Wall Street. We want to sell goods and services and all that to everybody. Of course we do. But we got to own something. Yes. We've got to own some of these commercial buildings. We've got to own some insurance companies. We've got to own building and construction and all of that. And we can do this. We can do this. But we've got to stop undermining our own self and think, I'll do this little bit and it's enough. No, it's not enough. Everybody deserves to be as rich as the others who are getting rich every day, ripping you off in so many ways. And so I believe in this. I believe in this. I'm dedicated to it. I'm very serious about it. And I want you to know there are other legislators who are also serious. Right now, we're outnumbered. We're outnumbered because the Republicans did better than us. And now they own the House and the Senate and the White House. And we've got to take it back, and we can do it if we vote. We can outvote anything and anybody if we just get out there and vote. So, realtists, you know, I have to teach the white people what realtists are. They said, what do you mean, realtors? I said, no, I mean realtists. And so, I want you to know there are some of us who are working very hard in Washington, D.C. with the law. We're trying to make sure that we know what the loopholes are. We know how the rip-offs are being done, how to deal with all of that so that we can make it possible for people who are working every day to provide these services. We want home ownership to be real. We are dedicated to it, and I want you to be just as dedicated. Remember, consolidated when I brought the banks here? Remember, we bring them back. We bring them back. We bring them back. Banks. They got a lot of money. They're doing very well. And they're coming to us because they don't want to hold the capital that the law requires they hold in case there is a run on the banks or something. You've got the money to pay off the depositors and others with their investment. And so we want to raise some of that capital to make sure that in the event that we have what happened back in 2000, that people are going to be taken care of. However, when you're a legislator and when you're working in these kinds of arenas, there's a lot of negotiations going on. And sometimes you can win with the negotiation. You come prepared. You've done your research. You know what's going on. And so I'm willing to do some negotiation, but you got to give us something in exchange for it. I'm not giving away anything. I'm not going to give you unless you're prepared to give up some of what you know we should have. And so I want you to apply. I want these banks to support you. We're going to bring them back. And you're going to tell the story about what happened when you tried to get mortgages in certain ways. Still, I want you all to know people of color are paying more interest rates and getting worse loans than others are getting. It's still going on despite all the work that we did in the Dodd-Frank reform to change all of that. But I'm here today because I want to inspire you and motivate you. I want you to get angry about what you see going on that's not fair and it's not just. And when some people say that Maxine Waters, oh, she's always angry about something, I got a right to my anger. I own it. And that projects me and propels me to do more and to do more and to do more and to do more. So Consolidate, thank you for coming today. I didn't want to just preach to you, but I got to tell you the truth. And this is what it is. Thank you so very much.